Sarah Jenkins stood nervously at the front of the classroom, her heart racing like a runaway train. She scanned the room, taking in the alien students whose tentacles, claws, and glowing eyes were all trained on her. Some looked intrigued, others indifferent, and a few seemed genuinely horrified. She couldn't blame them, being the only human, or rather, Deathworlder, at the Galactic University of Xenobiology came with its own challenges. "All right, class," said Professor Zorks, his gelatinous body quivering with every word. "Today, we have a rare experience. Our Deathworlder, Sarah Jenkins, will give a presentation on her home planet, Earth. Let's hope it's not too unsettling," he added, chuckling awkwardly, the sound reminiscent of air escaping a punctured bag. Sarah sighed inwardly. Way to set the tone, Professor. She activated her datapad, and a holographic image of Earth appeared. A ripple of gasps and murmurs spread through the room, with whispers in at least a dozen alien languages. "This," Sarah began, her tone laced with dry humor, "is Earth. You might know it as that notorious little planet in the Milky Way where life somehow managed to not only survive but thrive. The end result? Lucky, huh?" An Ashian sitting up front wobbled before collapsing into a heap, its spindly limbs folding neatly beneath it. Ignoring the commotion, Sarah continued, "You're probably wondering how anything can endure on a world like mine. Well, buckle up, folks, because Earth is anything but ordinary." She swiped to the next image, revealing Earth's diverse climates. "Earth is the universe's version of a chaos generator," she said. "We've got scorching deserts, frozen wastelands, hurricanes, earthquakes, and even tornadoes, sometimes all in the same week. It's like nature decided to see just how much we can handle." A gistic in the middle of the room raised an eye stalk. "Excuse me, Sarah, are you saying your species chooses to live in such dangerous places?" "Absolutely," Sarah said with a smirk. "Some of us even chase these disasters for fun. We call it storm chasing. Nothing like outrunning a tornado to get the blood pumping." The room erupted into a symphony of startled clicks, buzzes, and what might have been alien prayers. Sarah held back a laugh and moved to the next slide, displaying an image of a dense rainforest. "Now let's talk about Earth's life forms," she said. "This is what we call a rainforest. It's beautiful, sure, but don't let that fool you. It's full of things that can poison, bite, or claw you to death. It's survival of the fittest at its finest." Azraelian in the back waved a thin appendage. "And humans explore such places voluntarily?" "Of course," Sarah said with a shrug. "We do it for research, adventure, or sometimes just because we're curious. Risk-taking is kind of in our DNA." Professor Zorks made a wet, gurgling sound. "Fascinating. Truly fascinating. Class, make sure to take detailed notes. This information will definitely appear on your exams." Sarah exhaled, glancing at the sea of bewildered faces. "Any questions?" she asked. Instantly, the room erupted with noise. "Here we go," Sarah thought. "Stunning, isn't it? Don't let the beauty fool you, though. This place is basically nature's idea of a death match," Sarah said, zooming in on different plants and animals, her tone adopting the exaggerated cheerfulness of an unhinged tour guide. "See this adorable little frog? One touch, and you're paralyzed faster than you can blink. And this lovely flower? It'll burn through your skin faster than you can snap a selfie. Oh, and the bugs? Think of them as tiny Deathworlders, only meaner and with more legs." A Syrian student hesitantly raised a tentacle. "Surely, Sarah, your species avoids such dangerous places?" Sarah threw her head back and laughed, the sound echoing through the room like something out of a horror film. "Avoid them? Oh, sweet summer child, we vacation there. We've built luxury resorts in these death zones. Nothing says relaxation like the constant threat of being eaten by a jaguar while sipping a pina colada." The Syrian lowered its tentacle slowly, its expression a mix of disbelief and regret. "Let's move on to Earth's more interesting residents," Sarah continued, her grin growing wide enough to rival a predator's. The hologram shifted, displaying a lineup of apex predators: lions, tigers, bears, sharks, and more. "These," Sarah said, gesturing dramatically, "are what we call apex predators. They're the rulers of the food chain. And guess what? Humans compete with them for that spot." From the back of the room, a Blinn emitted a series of nervous chitters. "Surely your kind avoids direct contact with such creatures?" Sarah's laughter this time had a slightly wild edge. "Oh no, we keep them as pets. Not these exact ones, of course, but they're less lethal cousins. We've got dogs, descendants of wolves, and cats, which are basically pocket-sized versions of those big cats you see there. Honestly, sometimes the smaller ones are worse. Ever tried giving a cat a bath? It's like fighting a fluffy buzzsaw with claws and zero patience." The class collectively shifted in their seats, many pulling their appendages closer as if to shield themselves from the sheer insanity of it all. "But wait," Sarah said, her voice bubbling with faux enthusiasm. "We're just getting started. Let's talk about the oceans." The hologram transformed to show Earth's vast, blue oceans brimming with marine life. A few students visibly relaxed, clearly expecting something less horrifying this time. Sarah's smile turned wicked. Ah, the ocean. It covers 71% of Earth's surface, holds countless species, and is basically the universe's haunted house. And what do humans do? We dive right in and call it a good time. She zoomed in on various marine predators, great white sharks, colossal squids, box jellyfish, and other deep-sea horrors. With each new image, the class seemed to collectively shrink, their appendages curling around themselves like protective barriers. Humans looked at this vast, terrifying abyss, full of creatures straight out of a nightmare, and thought, perfect, let's swim here. Sarah finished, her voice dripping with sardonic delight as the classroom descended into stunned silence. This beauty right here, Sarah said, gesturing to the hologram of a great white shark, is what we like to call the ultimate predator. It's got rows of razor-sharp teeth, a nose for blood that can detect a single drop from miles away, and a habit of going after anything that moves. So, naturally, our solution to study it was to drop ourselves into its territory in flimsy metal cages. All in the name of science. A Ploid student raised a pseudopod. Sarah, isn't that unnecessarily dangerous? Surely your species has developed safer ways to observe such creatures. Sarah's laughter rang out, teetering on the edge of hysteria. Oh, sweet, innocent Ploid, that is the safer method. You should see what we do for fun. We call it surfing, where we ride waves on fiberglass boards in waters full of these guys. And scuba diving? That's where we willingly descend into the deep with nothing but a tank of air and sheer optimism. The Ploid's pseudopod drooped, retreating back into its body, its gelatinous form trembling slightly. But sharks are just the warm-up act, Sarah said, her grin widening as the hologram shifted. She pointed to a small, vibrant creature. Meet the blue-ringed octopus. Cute, right? This tiny thing carries enough venom to kill 26 adult humans in minutes. And this jellyfish here? Its sting is so excruciating that some victims have begged to die rather than endure the pain. Oh, and it's practically invisible in the water. Swimming in places like Australia? It's less a pastime and more like playing Russian roulette. With all the chambers loaded and the gun on fire, the classroom filled with a cacophony of distressed sounds. Clicks, hums, and even what Sarah suspected was a low wailing. Oh, come on, she said, throwing up her hands in mock exasperation. It's not all doom and gloom. We've got harmless sea creatures too, like, she paused, searching for examples. Okay, you know what? Moving on. She tapped her data pad, and the display shifted to show a series of adrenaline-fueled activities. Now, I know what you're thinking. Surely, living on such a chaotic planet has made humans careful and risk-averse, right? Wrong. Let me introduce you to extreme sports. Images flashed across the screen. Skydivers leaping from planes, climbers scaling cliffs without ropes, bungee jumpers diving headfirst into the void, and wingsuit flyers zipping between jagged mountains. With each new image, the aliens' expressions ranged from stunned disbelief to outright horror. You see, Sarah said, her tone light but her grin mischievous, humans have this funny little problem. We get bored. And apparently, simply surviving a death world wasn't thrilling enough. So, we invented ways to make it even more dangerous. The classroom fell silent, the students too shocked to respond. Sarah leaned casually against the podium, smirking. Any questions? We had to take it up a notch, Sarah said, gesturing to an image of someone leaping off a cliff in a wingsuit. This thrilling activity is called wingsuit flying. You wear a suit that makes you look like a hyper-caffeinated flying squirrel, jump off a perfectly safe cliff or airplane, and hope you don't end up splattered on the side of a mountain. It's all about trust in gravity and your own insanity. A Zobian student, its eye stalks trembling, managed to ask, why would anyone do that? What could possibly justify such a dangerous act? Sarah's grin widened, almost predatory. Why? For fun, of course, and bragging rights. Nothing screams, I'm fearless like willingly cheating death just because you can. The Zobian's eye stalks sagged in defeat, as though it had resigned itself to never understanding human logic. And then there are our sports, Sarah continued, her voice brimming with excitement. Take football, for example. It's basically organized combat dressed up as entertainment. Or rugby, which is like football but with less padding and more bruises. And hockey, that's where we put blades on our feet, grab sticks, and fight over a little rubber disc while sliding around on ice. You know, just casual fun. The classroom erupted in a mix of horrified noises and stunned silence. Sarah could see the aliens struggling to process what they were hearing, their brains nearly short-circuiting. But wait, there's more, Sarah announced, slipping back into her mock infomercial persona. Let's talk about the weather on Earth. The hologram shifted to show hurricanes, tornadoes, blizzards, and other extreme weather phenomena. The students, who had just started to calm down, immediately immediately tensed up again. I know what you're all thinking, Sarah said, her tone dripping with faux reassurance. Surely humans avoid areas with such catastrophic natural disasters. Well, let me surprise you. No, we don't. In fact, we build cities there. She pointed to an image of Miami. This is Miami, a gorgeous coastal city in Florida. It's practically a hurricane magnet. Every year, massive storms sweep through, threatening to destroy everything. And what do? We throw parties. That's right, hurricane parties. A wave of gasps rippled through the classroom. Oh, absolutely, Sarah said, nodding with mock seriousness. We stock up on snacks and alcohol, board up our windows, and treat it like a mini vacation. Nothing brings families closer together than playing board games in the bathroom while hurricane-force winds try to remodel your house. She swiped to another image, showing the American Midwest. And this region, we call it Tornado Alley. Imagine Mother Nature installing a giant blender right in the middle of your country. Tornadoes tear through here every year, and what do? We watch them for fun. The class fell into stunned silence again, their disbelief practically radiating off them. Sarah just smiled, thoroughly enjoying their reactions. Sarah's voice shifted into the lively cadence of a sports announcer. Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. It's time for another thrilling round of Chase the Swirling Vortex of Doom. Will our fearless storm chasers capture the perfect footage, or will they become flying lawn ornaments? Stay tuned to find out. The alien students sat frozen, their appendages twitching nervously, a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity reflected in their wide eyes and quivering sensory organs. But don't worry, Sarah said, her tone switching to mock reassurance. It's not all chaos and destruction. Take blizzards, for example. When Mother Nature decides to smother entire cities in snow, what do? We strap planks to our feet and hurl ourselves down mountains at life-threatening speeds. We call it skiing, a delightful way to risk frostbite, dodge avalanches, and occasionally collide with a tree. A gelatinous Fabornian student raised a trembling pseudopod. Pardon me, Sarah, but it seems your species has an unusual affinity for danger. Is this a modern development, perhaps spurred by technology reducing natural threats? Sarah's laughter rang out, a blend of amusement and something slightly unhinged. Oh, my dear Fabornian, if only. No, this madness is hardwired into us. Let me walk you through a little human history, a story of defiance, questionable decisions, and a species too stubborn to quit. The hologram shifted to show early human ancestors on the African savanna. This is where it all started. Imagine this, a group of primates looks around and says, you know what, trees are boring. Let's walk upright out in the open, where every predator can spot us. She gestured to a saber-toothed cat lurking in the background. See that kitty? It's basically a tiger with knives for teeth. And what did? We looked at it and said, yeah, we can take that. The classroom erupted with chirps, clicks, and incredulous whistles. And it only gets better, Sarah said, her grin widening as the hologram shifted. Fast forward a bit and we discover fire. Most creatures run from the scary burning stick. We decided it was a great idea to cook food, light up the night, and occasionally burn down an entire forest. The next slide displayed early human migrations. You'd think after nearly being eaten by everything in Africa, we'd stay put. But no, we looked at the unknown world, full of exciting new ways to die, and thought, let's explore. Her voice transformed into that of an overly enthusiastic tour guide. Step right up, folks. Join the human migration. Brave the Siberian tundra, cross uncharted oceans, wander into volcanic eruptions. Why settle for one life-threatening location when you can experience them all? The alien students exchanged wide-eyed glances, their disbelief palpable. Sarah leaned against her podium, smirking. Any more questions? A Xian student, its crystalline structure shimmering with bewilderment, cautiously asked, but surely, as your species advanced in intelligence and technology, you became more cautious? Sarah's laugh turned almost maniacal. Oh, you sweet, innocent soul. Let me introduce you to what we call the Age of Exploration. The hologram shifted to display ships from the era, bobbing on choppy seas. Picture this. We finally figured out how to make boats that didn't immediately sink. And what did? We set sail for the edge of the known world. Why? Because spices, obviously. The logic was basically risk death because dinner could taste better. She pointed to an image of Christopher Columbus. Take this guy. He convinced asked people to cross an entire ocean in what were essentially oversized bathtubs with sails. Their navigation tools? A pointy rock on a string and blind optimism. Somehow, they didn't all die. The classroom erupted into a cacophony of distressed keening, clicks, and groans. But wait, there's more, Sarah declared, her grin widening as she tapped the hologram again. Let's talk about humanity's culinary adventures. The display shifted to showcase a vibrant array of foods from around the globe. The alien students leaned forward, momentarily mesmerized by the colors and textures. Sarah's smile turned devious. Now, you might think that after surviving predators, disasters, and our own reckless exploration, we'd keep things simple when it comes to food. No, we made eating into another death-defying sport. She pointed to a picture of fugu, the pufferfish delicacy. This little guy contains enough poison to kill 30 humans. Naturally, we decided it would make a great dinner. It takes a highly trained chef to prepare it, and one slip means your meal comes with a side of paralysis and death. Bon appetit. A gaze-tick student raised a shaky appendage. Surely that's a rare case of culinary insanity? Sarah's laugh filled the room. Oh, my dear friend, we're just getting started. Let's talk about spicy food. The hologram shifted to display a variety of chili peppers. These bad boys contain a chemical called capsaicin, which literally tricks our brains into thinking we're in pain. And what do? We breed them to be even spicier. We hold competitions to see who can endure the most pain. Because nothing says gourmet dining like feeling your face melt. The students squirmed in their seats, their digestive systems churning in sympathy. And it doesn't stop there, Sarah said, her voice brimming with mock excitement. Let's discuss cheese. The hologram changed again, this time showing an assortment of cheeses, including some especially pungent ones. At some point, we figured out that letting milk rot in just the right way could produce something edible. And then someone thought, you know what would make this even better? Maggots. She gestured to an image of casu marzu, the infamous Sardinian maggot cheese. This delicacy is teeming with live larvae. And get this, it's only considered safe to eat when the maggots are alive. If they've died, that's when it's dangerous. The class collectively recoiled, their expressions a mix of horror and disbelief. Sarah leaned casually against her podium, her grin as wide as ever. Any more questions? Oh, and did I mention the maggots can leap up to 6 inches when disturbed? It's like a party in your mouth, and everyone's trying to escape, Sarah said with a grin that bordered on wicked. The classroom immediately erupted into a symphony of disgusted sounds, gagging, retching, and what Sarah could only assume were alien equivalents of nope in at least 20 different languages. But we're not stopping there, Sarah continued, her enthusiasm unwavering. Let's talk about drinks. Humans have a deep love for beverages, especially the ones that can either kill us or make us do hilariously dumb things. The hologram shifted to show an array of alcoholic beverages. This, Sarah announced, gesturing dramatically, is alcohol. Essentially, it's a toxic liquid that makes us feel good, at least until the morning after. Despite impairing our judgment, slowing our reflexes, and fueling some of humanity's worst decisions, we've been drinking it for thousands of years. And of course, we turned it into a social activity and a sport. She pointed to an image of a beer pong tournament. This fine tradition is called beer pong. The goal? Throw a ball into your opponent's cups of beer, forcing them to drink. The winner is the last one still standing. Well, standing might be a bit generous. Let's say the last one not hugging the toilet. A Syrian student, its tentacles tightly coiled, hesitantly asked, surely your medical professionals discourage such reckless behavior? Sarah's laughter was now teetering on the edge of hysteria. Oh, sweet, innocent tentacled child. Our medical professionals are some of the biggest thrill seekers around. Allow me to introduce you to the wild and wonderful world of human medicine. The hologram shifted to historical depictions of medical practices. Picture this. It's the Middle Ages and you've got a headache. The cure? Drill a hole in your skull to release the evil spirits. Got a fever? Time for bloodletting. Nothing like losing a pint or two to really perk you up. And let's not even touch the so-called treatments for hysteria. Trust me, those were something else. The students stared in stunned silence, their appendages trembling in what Sarah assumed was a mix of horror and disbelief. But surely, a Blinn chittered nervously, with your advanced technology, modern medicine is safer? Sarah's grin stretched impossibly wide. Oh, my dear Blinn, let me introduce you to modern surgery. The hologram switched to an image of a sleek operating room. Imagine this. You're unwell, so you willingly let someone knock you unconscious with chemicals, slice you open with sharp tools, dig around in your insides, and then stitch you back together. And the best part? You pay for it. She pointed to a set of surgical instruments. This little beauty is basically a high-tech power drill perfect for when your surgeon channels their inner carpenter. carpenter. And this one here, that's a rib spreader. Nothing says healing quite like cracking your chest open like a stubborn coconut. The class collectively recoiled, their various sensory organs quivering with disbelief. Sarah leaned back against her podium, thoroughly enjoying their reactions. Any other questions? The classroom had devolved into a chaotic symphony of distressed noises, from high-pitched wails to deep, mournful groans. Sarah, unbothered, grinned and leaned into the chaos. But wait, there's more, she announced, her voice dripping with exaggerated enthusiasm. Let's talk about our beloved pharmaceutical industry. The hologram shifted to display an assortment of medications. Here's how it works. We've created incredible drugs that cure diseases, manage symptoms, and improve our quality of life. The catch? The side effects might include nausea, dizziness, heart palpitations, uncontrollable sobbing, or, my personal favorite, the sudden, inexplicable urge to slow dance with your refrigerator at 3 a.m. She gestured to one medication in particular. Take this antidepressant, for example. It's designed to treat depression, but one of the potential side effects? Increased risk of suicidal thoughts. I wish I were joking. It's like spinning the wheel of neurotransmitter roulette. Place your bets and hope for the best. The students were visibly shaken, some hiding behind their appendages while others seemed too shocked to move. Now, I know what you're all thinking, Sarah continued, her tone mockingly reassuring. Surely, with all these risks, humans must have become incredibly cautious and developed impeccable safety measures. To that, I ask, have you been listening to anything I've said? The hologram shifted again, this time to images of extreme sports and dangerous stunts. Ladies, gentlemen, and assorted alien beings, let me introduce you to humanity's version of safety. She pointed to an image of a person bungee jumping. This is what we call a calculated risk. And by calculated, I mean someone probably did some math. Maybe after a few drinks, the slideshow cycled through more jaw-dropping activities, wingsuit flying, free solo climbing, and the chaotic spectacle of the Pamplona Bull Run. With every new image, the aliens' reactions swung between horrified disbelief and outright panic. You see, Sarah said, her tone now akin to that of a slightly unhinged motivational speaker, humans have a peculiar habit. We see something absurdly dangerous and think, I could totally do that. Surviving life on a death world wasn't thrilling enough for us, so we decided to raise the stakes. She pointed to an image of Alex Honnold scaling El Capitan without any ropes. This guy? He looked at a 3,000-foot vertical cliff and thought, you know what would make this climb more interesting? If I ditched all my safety gear, because apparently, the constant threat of turning into a human pancake adds a little spice to life. A Zobian student, its eye stalks trembling, managed to stammer, but why? What possible benefit comes from such recklessness? Sarah's grin stretched wide, her amusement unmistakable. Why? For fun, of course, and the bragging rights. Nothing screams badass like spitting in death's face for absolutely no reason. It's as if we're collectively yelling at the universe, you can't kill me if I beat you to it. It's a very creative approach to existential dread. The Zobian's eye stalks drooped, clearly surrendering to the impossibility of understanding human logic. But don't worry, Sarah said, her voice suddenly soothing, though still tinged with mockery. It's not all life-threatening stunts and mortal peril. Sometimes we do know how to kick back and relax. Let me introduce you to the concept of human entertainment, Sarah began, as the hologram shifted to display movies, video games, and books. The alien students leaned in, clearly hoping for a break from the relentless madness she'd been describing. Their hopes were short-lived. Sarah's laugh shattered the illusion of reprieve. Oh, you sweet, innocent souls. You thought human entertainment would be safe? Let me show you the wonders of horror. The hologram switched to scenes from horror movies and video games. We humans take everything that could kill us, monsters, serial killers, ghosts, and unknowable cosmic entities, and turn them into entertainment. Because nothing says relaxation like watching a masked lunatic hunt teenagers with a chainsaw. Am I right? She gestured to an image of a roller coaster. And when fictional terror doesn't cut it, we build massive contraptions of metal, strap ourselves in, and fling ourselves through the air at absurd speeds. We call them thrill rides, because apparently there's nothing more exhilarating than tempting fate. It's like we're competing in some kind of speed run back to extinction. The class was frozen in a mix of horrified fascination and disbelief. Sarah could almost hear the metaphorical gears grinding in their alien minds, struggling to process the sheer absurdity. But wait, she said, her voice brimming with mock enthusiasm. We haven't even gotten to the best part yet. How humans prepare for the future. The hologram shifted again, now displaying human disaster preparedness efforts. Now, you'd think living on such a dangerous planet would make us cautious and methodical. And in some ways, you'd be right. We do prepare, just not always in ways that make sense. comments. She pointed to an image of a doomsday bunker. See this? It's an apocalypse bunker. Because nothing screams optimism quite like preparing to live underground while the surface of the planet becomes a wasteland. And don't worry, we stock these with all the essentials: canned food, water, and enough toilet paper to mummify a small city. The hologram transitioned to images of conspiracy theorists and their ideas. But why stop at real threats when we can invent new ones? Some humans look at the world's genuine dangers and decide, not scary enough. Let's spice it up. Flat Earth theories, secret lizard overlords, microchips and vaccines, you name it, we've got it. A plorbian student tentatively raised a pseudopod. Excuse me, Sarah, but wouldn't it be more productive to focus on tangible, real threats? Sarah's laugh now bordered on maniacal. Oh, my sweet, naive plorbian. Why limit ourselves to real threats when we can imagine even more ridiculous ones? It's like we looked at our death world and said, this needs flavor. She flicked to the next slide, which juxtaposed images of climate change protests with climate change deniers. Here's a fun one, she said, grinning. We've got half the planet begging everyone to save the environment, while the other half insists the problem doesn't exist at all. Because clearly, nothing's more human than arguing about whether or not the house is actually on fire while the flames are licking at our heels. The class sat in stunned silence, their disbelief almost palpable. Sarah leaned back, looking utterly delighted. Any more questions? Our planet is undergoing massive climate changes that could completely reshape life as we know it, Sarah said, her tone drenched in mock seriousness. And how do we respond? By arguing about whether or not it's even happening. Because nothing says problem solving quite like debating the existence of a crisis while it's actively trying to kill us. The alien students were visibly shaken. Some hid behind their appendages, while others appeared frozen in a state of collective shock. But don't worry, Sarah continued, her voice dripping with false reassurance. We've got it all under control. We're prepared for everything. Zombie apocalypse? We've got survival plans for that. Alien invasion? We've made so many movies about it, we're basically experts. Robot uprising? Oh, don't worry, we're working on making that happen. It's like humanity collectively decided to speedrun its own extinction event. She gestured to an image of a scientist working on artificial intelligence. Take this, for example. We're building AI that could surpass us in every conceivable way. Why? Because apparently, being the apex predator on a death planet just wasn't thrilling enough. We had to create something that could replace us. It's like we're playing chess with evolution, except the board's on fire, the pieces are made of explosives, and we're teetering on the edge of a cliff. The classroom was now a cacophony of distressed noises. Keening, whimpers, and low, despondent moans filled the air, creating a symphony of collective alien anxiety. But hey, Sarah said, her grin stretching to almost cartoonish proportions, that's life on Earth for you. A non-stop roller coaster of danger, disasters, and questionable decisions. And the best part? We wouldn't have it any other way. She turned to Professor Zorks, who appeared to have been slowly melting into a gelatinous puddle of sheer terror throughout her presentation. So, Professor, how'd I do? Did I give an accurate portrayal of life on Earth? Professor Zorks managed to reform just enough to respond, his quivering voice barely above a whisper. Ms. Jenkins, I think we need to reclassify Earth. It's no longer a death world. It's an oh merciful cosmos. How are they still alive? World. Sarah's smile lit up her face. I'll take that as a compliment. Any questions? Don't be shy. I promise I don't bite much. Chaos erupted in the classroom. Some students were frantically scribbling notes, others appeared trapped in existential crises, and a few looked as though they were reconsidering their career choices entirely, perhaps opting for professions that didn't involve humanity. As Sarah stood at the podium, basking in the glorious chaos she had unleashed, a thought struck her. And to think, I didn't even get to the part about human mating rituals. Maybe I'll save that for the final exam. Nothing says quintessentially human like a little sadistic surprise. With that, Sarah Jenkins, the lone human surrounded by a sea of aliens, smiled to herself. It was going to be one hell of a semester. Meanwhile, as the pandemonium slowly subsided, Professor Zorks managed to gather just enough composure to wonder how the Galactic University was ever going to recover. Professor Zorks cleared his throat, or the closest approximation of one, given his gelatinous anatomy, and addressed the class. Well, that was certainly enlightening, Miss Jenkins. I believe we've all gained a new perspective on the, peculiar challenges of Earth's environment and its inhabitants. His voice wavered slightly as he added, class dismissed. Please remember to submit your reaction papers by next week, and perhaps consider some light meditation or therapy to help process today's material. The alien students began filing out of the room, some still wide-eyed with shock, others murmuring excitedly about what what they just witnessed. Sarah packed up her belongings, her satisfied grin refusing to fade. Professor Zorks oozed his way over to her desk. "Miss Jenkins, a moment of your time." Sarah looked up, her expression radiating an innocent charm that barely masked her mischief. "Yes, Professor? While your presentation was thorough, I can't help but feel you may have, shall we say, highlighted the more extreme elements of Earth's ecology and human culture." Sarah's grin widened. "With all due respect, Professor, I think I actually toned it down a bit. I didn't even touch on our mating rituals or politics." Zorks's form visibly quivered, ripples cascading through his gelatinous mass. "Perhaps it's best we reserve those topics for never." "Never?" Sarah chuckled. "Sounds like a solid plan." He hesitated, then added, "That said, I must commend your ability to hold the class's attention." They were, without question, fully engaged. "Thank you, Professor," Sarah replied, slinging her bag over her shoulder. "Same time next week? I was thinking of exploring human sports." "Wait until they hear about ice hockey." Zorks made a sound that resembled a deflating bubble, his body briefly sagging. "I look forward to it with a mix of professional curiosity and existential dread." "Good day, Miss Jenkins." As Sarah exited the classroom, she couldn't help but chuckle to herself. Sure, being the only human in a galactic university came with its challenges, but moments like these made it all worth it. Heading toward the cafeteria, she idly wondered if she could convince the kitchen staff to add some spice to the universally bland food they served. After all, life without a little risk wasn't living at all. Just another day in the life of a Deathworlder, Sarah thought with a smirk, as the universe around her seemed just a bit more colorful, a bit more chaotic, and infinitely more entertaining.